This episode of Angles is brought to you by Richmond Personal Injury Attorneys. Expect high-level communication, transparency, and cutting-edge technology to keep your case moving. Expect a legal team that's laser-focused and moves fast to get the results you deserve. When the unexpected happens, expect Richmond Vona. Learn more at richmondvona.com. 192 Seneca Street, Buffalo, New York. Welcome to Angles, the podcast where we dig into the stories behind impactful people and explore the sharp turns, daily decisions, and defining moments that shape how they got to where they are and how they keep moving forward. I'm John Richmond, and every week I sit down with guests who are building bold, meaningful lives and careers in Buffalo and beyond. If you enjoy these conversations, please hit follow, subscribe, drop a comment, or share the episode. It's a simple way to help us grow with the community and keep these stories coming. Today on Angles, I'm joined by someone I've known for years, and someone whose work and voice have come to symbolize Buffalo in a really powerful way. Dave Horesh, co-founder of Oxford Pennant. If you're from Buffalo, chances are you've seen Oxford Pennant's work on walls across the country. But what started out as a side hustle with a few pennants has grown into a nationally recognized brand, known just as much for its heart and honesty as for its design. In this conversation, Dave opens up about what it means to build a business with values and why culture and community matter now more than ever. We talk about craft, leadership, and doing things the hard way because it's the right way. Let's get into it. All right. Super excited to be joined by Dave Horesh, co-founder of Oxford Pennant, somebody I've known a long time, but admittedly we're catching up. How you doing, man?
Good morning. Just for the listeners out there, I want you to know I was 15 minutes late to this conversation. That's the kind of day that I'm having.
Hey, totally good. I know how it goes, and I just appreciate you being here. Obviously, you're somebody that I've known for a while now. I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here. I admire you a lot, just both as a human being and, of course, the business you've built. And super excited to talk to you today. And, you know, I think probably just about everybody who sees this knows Oxford Pennant, and they probably know who you are. I was thinking about this. Do you ever think about or maybe go back to the first pennant you ever made? And I would love to kind of hear that origin story.
Of course. Yeah. Well, thank you. By the way, it goes right back toward you too. And not that anybody
Appreciate
listening really cares about our relationship with each other, but
it.
really admire what you've built over at Richmond Vona, and obviously a big fan of you and Keith as well. Um, it's actually a good story. Like you wouldn't think that it would be, but I know exactly where the first Oxford pennant is. Um, So yeah, like a little bit of backstory on how we started the company. So like my partner Brett and I started it in 2013 as a side hustle with like $2,000 on our personal credit card. And as of today, we have 44 employees. We do about roughly $6 million in annual sales. And we've really established ourselves as a manufacturing company that specializes in like this one thing. And it's been an awesome business. We collaborate with musicians and artists, and we make stuff for Nike and Adidas. It's like we do one thing, we constantly take photos and videos of it, we put it on our Instagram, and the thing just kind of keeps going. What really wasn't what we set out to do when we started this company. So like I said, Brett and I, like, the backstory is this: like we wanted to make pennants. Our original idea was like, hey, these are interesting. This could be the kind of thing that you could take to like the Elmwood Arts Festival and maybe make $1,000 and like do it once a summer and be like, all right, handshake, high five, let's get out of here. And so we wanted to get these things made for ourselves, and we like couldn't find a vendor that could do it the way that we wanted, because like it's not worth getting into right now, but like the reason that our product is differentiated is because most other manufacturers stopped making pennants this way in about the 60s and 70s and started moving toward like either making them overseas or using synthetics or like really cheap production processes. And we make them the way that they were made in the first half of the 20th century, which was what we wanted to produce, but nobody really did it. So we made I remember it was three different designs to start. It was a Let's Go Buffalo pennant, because obviously, and we made a Boston pennant and a Pittsburgh pennant because we had friends in those cities, and we were like, well, if nothing else, maybe we'll just give them to our friends.
Yeah.
We're like, let's see if we can establish something. And so we spend the money, we get them made. Imagine I'm 26, so like $2,000 is like, oh my god, this is all I have.
Yeah.
If this doesn't work, I'm done for. And so I had these made up, and I was telling my family about it. My girlfriend, now wife, brought it up at dinner, said that I invested in these things. And my father-in-law owns a marina on Niagara Street, Rich Marine Sales, and it's their family business, like three generations. And he both of my parents are retired small business owners, and I knew that they would be happy for me. But like he's doing it, like he's still in the rhythm of it. He's in his 60s, he complains all the time about it. And so I really felt like a kinship with him about what I was going after. And so I got these things made, and I went down to his marina, and I walked in. I'm like, well, here they are. Like, here are the pennants. And he's like, well, how much do they cost? And I'm like, I don't think I've given any thought to that. I don't think I actually thought about like what to charge for them once I had them
Right.
made. I just liked the way that they looked. And I was like, give me like $10 for one. And he handed me a $20 bill for a Let's Go Buffalo pennant. And he like pulled two tacks out of his drawer and like pinned them to the wall. And like, God strike me down if I'm lying to you, they are still there right now. So like my father-in-law, like the room that like I went in and asked my father-in-law if I could marry his daughter, was that room. And then like the room that I went into with her after we got married to tell him that we were expecting our first kid. And then like the room that we went to again, then we tell him we were with our first kid that we were expecting our second. Like the pennant has always been there, like staring back at me for now it's been 12 years.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny you're talking about a little bit about, hey, we realized people weren't making these anymore. They're making them overseas, and I know you guys make everything, I believe, right here in Buffalo in one facility. And it kind of reminds me of like my dad. He's a brick mason by trade, owns a small masonry company, and he always talks about, the difference between like quality and craftsmanship maybe many many years ago versus now in terms of like home building or building or buildings. But the reason most people don't make things here anymore to that quality standard because it's so much easier and cheaper to do it overseas and probably have a higher profit margin. How did you guys tackle that? I mean, because that's I give you a lot of credit. I mean, you're true to kind of the brand, to making things the right way, to doing things the right way. But that is the hard way to do it. It's not the easy way to do it.
Well, your dad's right. I mean, it's sort of the main theme of like what's happened in America over the past 40, 50 years. Um, to the detriment of communities like Buffalo, which used to be like vibrant manufacturing cities that now like there's like a thing there and there's a thing there, but there's these big swaths of land where there used to be stuff. Um, you know, we benefit from the fact that the product is not that expensive, right? So like if you're going to go into Walmart and you're going to get, masking tape or whatever, who cares where, like who cares if it's made in Nebraska or if it's made in China, like whatever. But our point of view has really always been that like this is a product that does best. Like it's a wool felt pennants have been popular in America since the 1890s. And they have, from that beginning, they have always been associated with the things that matter the most in your life. So initially, it was like sports teams and colleges, and then over time, it became associated with as a souvenir from like places and trips and world exhibitions and that sort of thing. So like, what you find is that because this product has an authentic resonance within people's lives, you don't want to create something inauthentic on its way to that customer.
Right.
And so you're faced with a lot of decisions as a small business owner. But as I mentioned when we first started talking, this was a side hustle. Like this wasn't something that we were doing because we're like it's got to work. It was always we called the company House Money. Like we literally referred to it as House Money for 3 years until we actually like made our first hire. And so to me, like it always felt like there's a fork in the road as a small business owner where you're like, do we save money and make more now, or do we continue to invest in the brand over the long term? You've always got every decision you make is sort of always like, do I take the cheap way out or do I do it the right way? And like even right now, like today in your day, you'll have decisions like that. And typically what you find is that you'll get less of a short-term ROI on the long-term brand building side, but you build trust with people. And because we never really needed to take any, like I had a job, my partner had a job, this thing was sort of generating its own profit. We just always ended up making that like, let's just keep investing. Let's not go down to the lowest common denominator. And because there was no pressure on the company. Like every once in a while we'd go out to dinner and we'd put it on the company credit card. But other than that, like we had no expenses. It was like
Yeah.
the product, we'd ship it, we'd turn up music on a Saturday morning and like get together and have bagels and coffee and ship all of our packages. And we were like in our mid 20s and just having fun. So when you continue to, we were really the beneficiaries of keeping the company really low pressure. And then like by the time that it was like, oh, like I'm getting married, I'm having babies, we need to hire somebody, the company had like cash in the bank, had customers that trusted us, and sort of had a quote unquote way of being that was easy to just be like, oh, we'll just do this, but more of it. And like I said, 12 years on, we've got fans, we've got partners, we've got people that have been buying from us for a decade.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice, honestly, for especially for anybody trying to start a business or trying to grow a business, but I think just anybody in life, like you're trying to move up, at a job or whatever it is. I mean, I think if you seek out that instant gratification, you may have some like short term like gains, but they're not going to be sustainable. And if you really want to create something new or different or something that that you really love and that can grow into something bigger than you, I think that's the best advice. Is you got to keep pouring into it. That's what we've done at our firm, and it's very hard because you don't get those instant gains lots of times, but it typically means you're doing things the right way, like you're treating people the right way, you're building something the right way. So that's pretty awesome that you guys do that. I know too, like you guys, I know you started off small, but it seems like you really blew up. But they always say like overnight success takes a long time, right? Like, and it always seems faster from people on the outside. Was there like an aha moment or like a project you worked on where you and Brett were like, whoa, like this actually is going to take off. Like we can blow this thing up.
Yeah, well, by the way, just getting back to your previous point about building something that takes time, like just to close the loop on that one, like I also feel that like that's not how we're oriented as a society anymore. I mean, so many things like Amazon Prime, like you run out of you're working on a home project and you run out of caulk, you're like, oh, just literally pick up my phone, I'll have it here tomorrow. And like I don't know why I chose that example,
No, it
but
makes
like
sense.
literally everything in your life can be at your front door, totally convenient. You can like, you can get on X or you can get on Reddit and like yell at a celebrity for a movie that you didn't like. Right now, you could do it. And so it's interesting because like when you're a long-termist, when you think about like the long-term implications of what's best for you and your company, you it's you're zigging when everybody else is zagging, or maybe it's the other way around. Like if all of society is going like short term, you know, crypto, fast money, fast returns on everything. If you're going in the other direction, yes, it's quieter and yes, it doesn't have that ROI, but like it's the road less traveled, and it ultimately is one that people really admire when they actually need your services. So, um, you had asked about this like aha moment for us as a company. I think we there's actually kind of a short answer. Like when we started the company, we like it was right around the time that people were starting to get Instagram on their phones. And so, like Instagram, I don't know if your audience is really going to remember this, depends on who the average listener is, but like Instagram was really just a photo filter app when it first came out. Like you take a moody picture of a tree, throw a filter on it, and be like, I'm in Ithaca
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it was. And so we found that like for these two like 20 something guys in Buffalo, we just kept taking photos of what we were making and putting it up there and being like new ship, new thing that we're shipping out today to Pennsylvania, or like new project for this snowboard shop in Ellicottville or whatever. And what happened is that like people started like think about how much of a phenomenon when Instagram came out. Everyone's like you can follow your favorite thing and see photographs of it, and then video gets introduced. So it wasn't like this one aha moment. There were inflection points where we went from like, letter G to letter K all of a sudden.
Right.
But like the biggest thing was that like we started the company, just took genuine photos of what we were working on, and ended up creating this window for the entire world to pay attention to this thing that like me and my friend were doing over bagels and coffee in Buffalo. And so we kind of rode that Instagram rate wave up. And it was like I remember like we started it and we would post a photo and we get like 3 likes. I mean, these photos are still on there. You can scroll way back in the Instagram feed; they're still there. And then like I remember one we had like 100 followers after a couple of weeks of doing it because I was inviting my friends and people were starting to pay attention. And I remember one day I looked down, I'm like, we have 500 followers in this thing. And then a couple weeks later, I'm like, we have like 2,500 people that are paying attention to this thing. And like, I remember thinking about it because I'm 26, so I'm stupid, and I'm like thinking about it in terms of like how many people that is at a Bills game, and I'm like the entire section of a Bills game paying attention to Oxford Pennant, and then like over the years, you're like, that's the stadium, or like that's the arena, and then it goes from the arena to the stadium, and now you're like, it's two stadiums. Now it's like it's two and a half stadiums, and you think about all those people paying attention and rooting you on, and talk about an inflection point. Like those are the people that you think about when you make decisions. You're like, they're going to see it. They know our story. I hope they care. And, that's the power of social media.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is for sure. There's no question about that, but you're very good, you and Brad, at building your brand. But I will say, well, honestly, this is probably why your brand is so great, and so strong. It, like, when I read anything from Oxford Pennant, whether it's on the website or social, whatever, it sounds like I'm just talking to you. Um, which is awesome because it means it's just so true to you, right? It's real. It's not like some fabricated brand just designed to get people to buy your stuff. Like, this is who we are. This is how we talk. This is what we care about. Look at our cool stuff that we make, and it works. It resonates with people.
Can I
Do you
just
ever?
say something about that?
Yeah,
You are talking to me because I still do all of that.
yeah, it's amazing.
Like one of my advisors early on in the company was like, find the things that you love and never let go of those. Like if you like shipping packages, do it forever. And I'm like, well, I fucking don't. So I
Yeah, I'm not doing
can
that.
hire somebody for that part. But like the copywriting, the voice of the brand, I've always been like, it never feels, I'm never satisfied with something unless I'm the one telling the story. And so like even to this day, like with the company being the size that it is, like somebody gives me like tease me up with some copy and I'm like, I make some edits and I put it in my voice and I'm like, now it's Oxford Pennant. And so it's an easy brand to run because it's like, if I think it's funny, if Brett thinks it's funny, that's what we do. Like that's what we're gonna write it that way. We don't have any masters.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'll say too, I mean, I give you a lot of credit because you're very true to yourself. I mean, you don't duck certain topics. If something's affecting you, your employees, the community, your business, whatever it is, you talk about it. And you don't shy away from it. And a lot of business owners, I mean, I'll be honest, like I struggle with this. Like, ooh, is it okay for me to comment on this? Am I going to offend these people? Um, but I mean, you call balls and strikes, and you're just true to yourself. Or do you ever, like, can you talk about maybe like your decision making process when it comes to posting things that perhaps you're like, ooh, this isn't just about, posting pictures of some great products that we're making. It's more so talking about the impact that something bigger than us is having on the community, or something else like that. Because I know you do that, and I just applaud you for it.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that. Um, I definitely felt like a couple of years ago there was like a wave of like corporate activism, that I feel like has subsided, and my enthusiasm for, putting my brand on the line for every social issue has definitely waned. I mean, I'm almost 40, so like I don't want to necessarily get in the pit and fight everybody on every issue. But like, what I'll say is that Buffalo is very important to me and to this company. And so for me, the bellwether for whether or not I'm going to actually enter the arena usually is like, is this impacting Buffalo? Because if it impacts Buffalo, it's something that I don't feel like this community has, hundreds of voices of young entrepreneurs who have something to say about like something that's happening downtown. And last month, not last month, sorry, back in March, early March, um, my longtime friend, the guy that I knew for 15 years, Mickey Harmon, and his partner
Oh
Jordan,
yeah.
they were murdered right next door to my shop while I was in it. Like I was in the shop in the morning, I was like doing my morning thing, and by the afternoon, like the cops started showing up, and some guy entered their basement and
Yeah, it's horrible.
bludgeoned them to death. And I had more. The cops were using my security footage to figure out like the timeline. Sorry, this podcast took a dark turn, but it's
No,
important.
it's okay. I mean, it's important.
Like the reason that I bring it up is because for me, like the cops were using my security footage, and I could see because they were like two young gay men who were murdered, that like it was making its way onto people being like, oh, it must have been like there must have been like a scorned lover, or like something kinky must have been happening and it went wrong. And like I knew that somebody had just like broken into their fucking house and with like and beat them to death with a hammer.
Yeah.
And so like I called the news and I was like, I don't this first of all, my friends don't deserve the light that's being cast upon them right now by strangers on the internet. So I want to set the record straight as somebody who actually has the information. But like to me, when that happened, I felt like Buffalo is I still feel like this. I feel like downtown Buffalo is reaching a breaking point in terms of like crime, mental illness. There's very few businesses in the city. I'm like the only business on my block. And so when I feel like I want to sort of ring the bell and be like, "Hello, everybody who like all the Buffalo love and all the people who get angry when people say that like a football player likes ranch instead of blue cheese. Like, hello, your city is being destroyed before your very eyes,
Yeah.
and I'm on the front lines and I'm here to tell you it's actually happening. Like, I feel like I'm in a position of leadership because I like started a company from nothing. I did it in Buffalo. I choose to continue doing it in Buffalo because I love this town. And as a result, I need to create fertile ground for the brand to continue to thrive and for me to continue to be like proud to associate with it. And so I am not really going to be afraid of getting in the pit, like on the mayoral election or on issues that matter, because if I go, that's it. That's a city block that has no
Yeah.
businesses on Main Street in Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to say something and to try to get public attention on issues that matter to me.
No, yeah, I applaud you for that. And like I think back like when I first met you years ago, like I mean that block was like we thought it was like really coming up. Like and it was like there was a lot of other businesses there and now yeah, you've stayed true. You've stayed there and um yeah, it's interesting. Like I think about that as someone coming from New York, it's like you even mentioned earlier, in New York it's all like kind of you have it it's not like here's something cool here, here's something over here and there's just like this empty fields in between, and it felt like we were starting to build that up, and now it's really sad. Like I feel like you're reading every month about restaurants closing. We had a supermarket downtown close. I
I'll
don't
tell
know,
you,
it's tough.
I'll tell you a quick anecdote. We used to have a store. So my shop is in the 800 block of Main Street, and our store was on the 700 block.
Yep.
And in February of 24, we closed the store. We were at the end of a 5-year lease, and we just chose not to renew it. But when we were going through in like late, like I would call it like summer, fall 2023, when we were like, renew, go year to year, what do we do? I actually looked at a lot of our sales data. I was really interested to see like what was happening, like because the company was doing fine, but the store wasn't. And I was really interested as to what it was, and like I found that like something like it was single digits, but it was high. It might have been like 7 or 8% of like all the company's sales happened within like 3 miles of the store. Like it
Wow.
was incredible.
Huh.
People would pay $8 to have something shipped 3 blocks away from being able to buy it at my store. So like, there's a bigger impact on a city like Buffalo that has very little to give. In a city like New York, like you live there because you're like, I live in a crap apartment, but I walk outside and the city is my living room. Everybody always says that in New York City. And in Buffalo, it's so comfortable. You can get an 800 square foot apartment for like $1,000 a month. And like that behavior that I talked about that changed in terms of like, people's preferences for short term upside. If I'm shipping a package, but you could be at my door in 4 minutes, but you'd rather pay $8 for me to send it to you, of course I'll ship it to you. But why would I keep a store open under those
Right.
circumstances? And I think that that's having a way bigger impact on the reason the restaurants. I mean, I don't know if this is interesting for your podcast, but like, edit it out if you don't like. The restaurants are closed as a fact, but factored into that is the fact that like there's nowhere to shop, there's nothing to do. Like so, like the restaurant might be the only thing on the block, but like if the Sabres are terrible and it's February and it's 10 degrees outside, are you really gonna like you can have a pad thai DoorDash to you in 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Are you really gonna get in your car to go downstairs and have meatballs or downtown? See downstairs, even me. That's what I want right now is my meatballs that are in the fridge. But anyway, it's a sort of a very Buffalo like esoteric thing, but it has a big impact on what we think about as business owners.
Yeah, and I love your passion though. I mean, I remember moving here in 2015. My dad is from Niagara Falls, and so I spent a lot of time coming here. And I came here because I loved it here. Like I saw what was happening, and it's amazing to see like entrepreneurs like starting businesses and growing businesses and keeping them in Buffalo. And we want to see that continue to happen. And I think it's great that you're one of those voices leading the charge to say, hey, look how amazing it is here. Like, look how lucky we are to be here. I mean, all the stuff that Oxford Pennant does, like to celebrate Buffalo, that's got a lot of national recognition and deservedly, but it's because like, hey, we're proud to be here. But we all have to work together and kind of continue to find ways to improve the city. And I think too, like I look at, we were talking about like your brand, but I mean, I just look at like how you celebrate your people, and like you could just kind of tell that your people are genuinely happy to be there. And like, yeah, work can be tough, but um, how do you think, kind of like your culture reflects like the spirit of the city of Buffalo? I mean, it seems like it's pretty aligned or almost like step and step.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of misfits.
That's great though. That's you want
Yeah,
people to be interesting and people to be different.
like the I really have like one. My staff would probably tell you otherwise, but in my mind, I really have one rule, and I just say no assholes allowed. And so like my major rule at the company is like be kind. If you're kind and you can contribute, you can work at this company for 20 years. And like really the only reason that we've ever had to like fire people is when like there's just like they're not getting along with like the we've got 40 people and they're all friendly and they have lunch together and they some of them have met at Oxford Pennant and have started bands and they play kickball. When somebody starts to come in and piss in the punch, you're like, you can't stick around here. Um, but like I think that there's a general understanding. I'm a good. I'm call it egotistical. I'm a good CEO for this company because I am representing. I'm a relatively laid back person who takes money very seriously, right? Um, and I'm representing a product that has been a part of the American story for over 130 years. And so I try to embed that in my staff that like the craft is important, the innovation is important, and the money is important. And if you want to be, if you want to be your true authentic self, if you want to be a freak, you can be a freak at Oxford Pennant. Like if you can't necessarily go work at Independent Health and be a freak. Like I really like, with all due respect to our friends at Independent Health, thank you for our health insurance. But
Yeah.
like, you know, there's this sense that like you can really be who you want to be at the company because we're all working toward this common goal of like preserving this product and doing it with like authenticity and skill. And so like why would anybody mess with that? Like if you want to contribute and make the company better and 1% better every day, like you can come in and you can be like, I have an idea. I have an idea for a product. I think there's a marketing thing that we should do. We're always listening to that stuff. But overall, like because it's a place where people can be who they are without us coming in and being like, no blue hair, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a result of that, like if you're somebody who wants to have blue hair is a silly example, but if you want to have blue hair, I don't give a fuck. Like you can do that. When I start to give a fuck is if you have blue hair and you're mean to people,
Yep.
or like you don't do a good job. So for me, like it's definitely a place where like there's a great culture because people really appreciate that they can work with their hands and be really proud of like I made that and there it is on the Nike website, right? That's a really cool experience for a young person to have out of a 100-year-old building in Buffalo, New York. And because people want to protect it, they also want to contribute to it and nurture that garden, so to speak.
Yeah, that's huge. It's I always tell people like, especially at our firm too, it's like, look, culture just like with you, and maybe I'm sure cultures look a little differently, but we have like kind of the mantra. It's like, look, if you're a good person, if you're not a jerk, if you believe in our mission, um, we will give you all the resources, do everything we possibly can to help you grow, to help you, achieve your goals both professionally and personally. And we'd love to be, people to help you do things in your personal life that maybe you thought you couldn't do. But yeah, when someone's a jerk, we've all had that. It's and you don't want to fire anybody, but it's like, yeah, you just can't be here. You're disrupting everybody. And it's just like we've all worked. I think you probably have had this too. In the past, you've worked at places where they have that toxic work culture. And I just think that that's just highly unacceptable these days. Like you just can't let that happen. We'll be right back after a word from our partners.
After an accident, life can be scary, stressful, tricky. You need Richmond Bona to help navigate the process because getting a life-changing settlement can not only take time, it can take an emotional toll. The team at Richmond Bona provides high levels of support through all the ins and outs, so you get the settlement you need and the new beginning you deserve.
When the unexpected happens,
expect Richmond Bona.
Now back to the conversation.
Well, also, like one of the things you also find is that like so for me, like it's like a sickness. The reason that I continue to run this company is because like I want to make money. Like it's not, this isn't summer camp, right? And so like I want to run a great company. I want to make money. I want to create prosperity that I can share with my family and my friends, and obviously enjoy for myself. But like on top of all of that, like because I'm so money focused at the company, like every day, you talk to millions of small business owners around America. You ask any one of us what we're thinking about right now, and I bet you 90% of them would be like payroll.
Yeah.
I gotta make
Yeah.
payroll this week, right? Every one of us.
Yeah. People
And so
relying on you.
what's totally like
Yeah.
my kids, all of it. So like, you know, because I'm so focused on like, did this invoice get paid? Is this project going to sell? I don't have time to get into the nitty gritty of the product anymore. And so every once in a while, one of our employees will show up with some idea because they're the ones that work with the felt every day. And they're like, hey, by the way, I realized if we cut it this way, we get a little bit more out of it. You're like, oh my God, thank you. Of course, I'm not thinking that way anymore, right? But because this is their entire world, and we've created a culture where they can come right to me and be like, "Yo, dude, I don't know why we're doing it this way." It's like I want to like kiss them for it. I'm like, "Thank you," because I don't have time to think about things this way anymore.
Yeah, that's called ownership. And
Yeah.
it's amazing when your employees or your team members start doing that and you empower them to do that. And that's really how businesses really start taking off. I mean, we have like right now, I'm like we're always like tweaking everything at our firm. Like how can we make like a better client experience? Like how can we do more for people? It's not just about the money as we realize working for people. And you'll have people go out and be like, hey, they'll come to the table like, we figured out a way to get this for free for the clients. And we're like, wow, amazing. And maybe it's a little bit harder and it takes a little bit more effort on our part, but it's worth it, right? And it's delivering that better experience. So it's really awesome. And people, and they don't have that ownership unless they bought in and they believe in the mission and the vision. So again, it's obviously a huge shout out to you and Brett.
Like one thing that I've really come to appreciate about like again 12 years of business, like I've dealt with my share of lawyers at this point. And one of the things that I've really come to appreciate about like a good lawyer is that it is as creative as my job. Like a good lawyer must be a creative individual, because you're thinking about, it's tactics and it's outsmarting your competition and doing what's right for your clients. And I think that level of creativity, like you can't if all you want to do is just follow the law, just go download ChatGPT and be like, am I entitled to anything on this?
Yep. Yep.
Like, but if you're engaging with clients and trying to do your absolute best for them, then you need to engage a level of creativity that comes from an entire organization. It doesn't just come from, you know, John Richmond, Keith Vona. It has to come from all the people that are thinking about what's in the client's best interest. The
Oh yeah.
best lawyers, I've been fortunate enough to never need you. Hopefully I never
I
will.
hope you never do.
I hope I never do. But like the best lawyers I've ever worked with are the ones that call me up and they're like, I just want you, I had an idea. And you're
Yeah.
like, that's good. Let's do that.
Yeah, I think people always think like, oh, the best workers are just like they're just hard workers. Like, yeah, of course they're hard workers, but and to me, it's that high level of creativity and curiosity. Because if you're intensely curious, you're just going to be a hard worker because there's always more that you can learn. There's always more you can be better at. I
No
don't care
doubt.
what you do, whether it's a law or you're in manufacturing or you're in healthcare. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like if you're like crazy curious, you're just going to work really hard because it's going to keep you up at night thinking about all the stuff you don't know, right?
Hmm.
It's like it never ends, but I guess that's also too what makes it fun and what makes it rewarding.
Totally.
Um, you've talked about, and it's been for real, it's been fun for me, watching you grow the business and then seeing like these wild, like amazing, collaborations or projects you've been on. I mean, you've worked with Disney, Star Wars, the NHL. You worked with bands like Wilco and Weezer and Fall Out Boy. I mean, it's amazing. And I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into those projects, and you've earned the right to work with all of them. Is there one that maybe sticks out the most to you, or one that, for any reason, whether it was more challenging or just the most fun, that you think about a lot, or maybe even the one that um, kind of like just reminds you like, hey, this is all worth it.
Your eyes are going to roll out of your head when I tell you what the answer is.
As long
Um,
as it's honest, they won't.
it's honest. Those collaborations are great, and I'm proud of every one of them. But the thing that makes me that like every once in a while, I'll get an email from someone who had like a custom piece made, and it's like an individual who had something made that meant something to them and has become an heirloom for whatever reason, right? I have clients that have ordered custom pieces that have inside jokes between them and their little kids, or the name of their grandfather's boat, and they gave it to their grandfather, and then he died a year later or whatever. And so to me, like, you the collaborations they're great because they introduce the brand to these whole other swaths of people, like who are not even thinking like, oh, maybe I'll get a custom pennant for Christmas. But the thing that really, like, if I died today, and hopefully I won't, and if I'm close, I'll call you. But but um, but like if I died today, I think that like my product has made people genuinely happier because it helps them craft and mold their life story. And it's a thing that is manufactured in a way that it can be with them for 100 years. And so my life's work, I wouldn't say it's complete because I feel like I still have a good 30, 40 years ahead of me to be able to run this company. But I just love the idea that like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have a pennant that makes them, that they look at and they pull it out of a drawer or it's in a box or it sits on their wall and they're like, that was a great trip. Or, I remember when my kid used to say that and it makes me smile, even though my kid is much older. So you know, like how many fucking companies can say
Yeah.
that? How
Yeah.
many business owners can look at their product and be like, it reaches people, people put it in their home and they look at it and it makes them feel warmth. Like
Yeah.
nothing does that. No other brand can do that. Nothing can make people feel something the way that Oxford Pennant can.
Yeah. Oxford Pennant is a curator of nostalgia. It's amazing. You found a way to take memories, to take emotions, to take feelings, put it into a really, really well-made product that not only lives on somebody's wall or wherever today, but then can be passed along from generation to generation. People don't throw away things with meaning. People don't throw away things that are made really well, right? And I think that's really amazing. I was going to ask you because like every entrepreneur I think is different, and I do think that sometimes people struggle with this as like founders or entrepreneurs. But how do you, sitting here today, 12 years in, define success for yourself or maybe for the company? It's hard.
I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, believe that prosperity is only worth having if you can share it. That's it, right? And I don't think that that's a common way of thinking, but I think that my definition of success, like I have lost all my hair, I've gained and lost weight multiple times in running this company, and it's been a hard road. My business partner and I have really gone through a lot to get to where we are. So like, there's a part of me that, like I'm like, of course I want to be able to look back and want the financials to be good enough to be able to be like it was all worth it because I'm a lot uglier than I was 10 years ago. You got to see the pictures. Don't, yeah. Hopefully you're only listening to this podcast.
It might just be me and you.
So, but like, man, if I was really successful, if I really said like the best of the best would be if I could take those 44, 45 people that work at Oxford Pennant, um, and say that their lives reach their potential a little bit further by virtue of working with me, then that would be the definition of success. If somebody who couldn't have bought a house before can buy a house, that's success. If somebody who wasn't thinking about having a kid can afford to have a kid because they work at Oxford Pennant, that to me is success. And like that's if our way of being influences some of these individuals who work for us, and then like they go out in whatever amount of time and they start a business and they're like, I always liked how Dave and Brett did it and they go out and they do that, like that's how you begin to really build, you rebuild Buffalo. You really rebuild a community if people look to our model and say that, well compensated CEO, of course, but that's not the point, right? The point is that like the people that work at the company also have dignity because they earn a good wage and work with their hands and can really be proud of the fact that they do something that matters.
Dude, that's what it's all about. And it bothers me when, I never would mention any names, but you see companies, I don't care what sector they're in, and you can tell that the owners don't, just be honest, don't give a shit about their people. Like I can't stand that. Like it's like you're nothing without your people. Like again, we always say to people like, look, like you're helping us build something. It's very hard. It's really, really hard to build something like this from the ground up. And we just appreciate you believing in our mission and our vision and embodying our values. And if you, and I understand, like, I get it. Like you didn't wake up yesterday and say, I want to start this personal injury law firm that changes the way people think about personal injury lawyers, but you believe in the mission and the vision. And if you help us achieve like our dreams, we're going to do everything we can to help you achieve yours. And that's whether that's, hopefully not, but we want people to be with us forever. The people that we have, we love, but if that's going out and doing something else, or like you said, be able to take that vacation that you never thought you'd be able to take, or buy that house that you never thought you'd be able to have. I mean, and if we can help you do that, or actually just flat out do it for you, I want to be known for that. You talk about we were talking about this actually before we went live on here, but I think people, like, you look at Oxford Pennant and from the outside, and it's like, wow, this company came from Buffalo. It's just blown up. Everything's going great. Everything's perfect. But I think we know that as business owners, there can be a lot of tough times. There's a lot of decisions to be made. You don't always make the right decision. You have to pivot. It's really, really, really difficult. Um, how do you guys, stay grounded, or even, I should actually say, how do you guys keep forging ahead, when times get hard, and, you may be second guessing a decision you made, or even something bigger?
I can't relate. Everything's always gone well for us, actually. So I'm sorry. I can't.
John, I didn't say that before we started. What are you talking about?
Um, like a couple of years ago, things got really dicey at the company for a number of reasons that aren't really, it's not that I'm afraid to share them, but they're just not that interesting to anybody on this podcast. But like things got really hard at the company. And I think everybody that really felt like a stakeholder at the company had to look at this thing. It had been a success story for the first, let's call it 9 or 10 years. It just, everything really did work. And in year 10, 11, like our growth, we hit our ceiling, and like we just kind of stopped growing. And the thing I always tell people is that like when you have the growth that we've had, when it feels like a hockey stick growth, the hockey stick sometimes it doesn't just go up and just keep going up. Sometimes it just goes really quickly to the place that it's probably always going to be.
Yeah.
That's where we got to.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think like when one thing that helps keep you grounded is when you think about having to close it and go work for somebody else, and you're like, oh, no way, no way. I don't even know if I'm employable anymore.
I'm definitely not.
No, for sure. But like, yeah, I mean, what keeps you going is like when the chips are down and it's on the line, and you really have the option to be like, should we try to taper this thing off and just be done with it? And when you sort of look at everybody at the table and you're like, I'm not done if you're not done. And when everybody's into it and you think about the implications of like, it's a good company. I think it's well run. It means something to people. It means something to Buffalo. It's like, sometimes you look at your business and you're like, is it worth fighting for? And you think about the things that you might think about in your deathbed, and you're like, of course. Like what would be fighting for if this isn't?
Right.
Like, so to me, like being a small business owner comes with so many blessings and so much like dignity is a theme that comes up in my life every day. Like there's so much dignity in it. And I actually think about it a lot in terms of like the way that I interact with other people, and even in having to let go of people, like you make sure that they have their dignity and so forth. So to me, independence and dignity is such an important part of being a human being. And any decision you can make in your life that helps you retain your dignity is the one worth taking. And my dignity was like, I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to go in. It's going to be really fucking hard. But on the other end, I'll be able to come out and like, I actually, I'll share this. I don't know why I brought up my deathbed like 6 times on this podcast, but like Brett and I have this joke, like Brett and I have gone through so much together. Like we're almost 40. We started this thing, we were 26, and we were like little like ducklings when we started the company. We're like, yeah. And I just told him that like when he comes to visit me in the hospital and say goodbye, we're just gonna look at each other and be like, just one nod, like just a knowing, like we did it all. We went through every emotion that you can feel, and like that's a really cool thing to like. It's not cool to think about death, but it's cool to think about having a partner that you look at and you're like, I fought for you, you fought for me, and look what we created, and that's worth fighting for.
Yeah, it does become, it's unspoken. Like I can just look at Keith and he just knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Totally.
Like it's because it's just so hard.
Like actually sometimes you don't even have to look. Sometimes you're like, we'll just talk about that later.
Yeah, we know. Everyone knows. We're on the same page. We can like finish each other's sentences. So is it, I'll say this, so not just one more question kind of on the subject. Like you talk about how important it is obviously to push through difficult moments. And I think that advice, having dignity and, being true to yourself and just working hard. And I think proving to yourself what you're made of. I mean, like most people don't realize what they're actually made of, when they put themselves into a corner and, how they can kind of claw their way out and really be successful or get the things in life that they want. But there's going to be a lot of failures that come. It's just how it goes. And, it's cliche, but, I think most people agree you do tend to learn a lot more from your failures and your success because you're forced to analyze them. How do you guys deal with failure? Is there a process you go through, like if something doesn't work, to analyze it and to kind of make sure you don't make that same mistake?
Well, it's quite a question. Yeah, well, you know, one you can read as many Harvard Business Review books as you want about running a company, but when the bullets start flying, you're really left with like,
Yeah.
what did your parents teach you? What did your best high school teacher teach you? Because that's
Yeah.
the ammunition that you've got when things really start getting tough.
Yeah.
You know? To me, I think you internalize failure. Like some people will be like, you just got to move on, right? And to me, I actually think that failure is a weapon that you have to harness. It's like you can't forget about it because you can see how making mistakes can be like a cancer at your company. It's like there's a little mistake here and a little mistake there, and all of a sudden it's like a car, right? It's like if one day you walk in, the AC doesn't work, you're like, well, I'll fix it later. But like if the AC doesn't work, the windows don't roll down, the tire keeps going flat, and the transmission's starting to skip, you went from having a problem to like having a piece of shit car that you completely have to replace. So to me, like when you like internalizing failure and making it a part of your practice, like is almost like the sort of like memento mori, like remembering that you're going to die someday, reminds you to live your life to the fullest every single day. That's seven references to death. But the like to me, when you think about how hard it is to go through failure, that is such a great tool to be able to look. It's a lens through which you look at your future decision making, and you don't just think about the optimistic side of everything that can happen. You think if, and if the downside isn't so bad that it puts us in a deep spot, it's worth doing. So like, as long as you don't neuter yourself, because that can happen to a lot of small business owners, where like you reach your limit, you get slapped back, and then you retreat, you turtle right back into where you were, and you're never going to try anything again. Can't do that. But when you fail and then you remember what that failure feels like, it's an incredible tool because when you're like, good example would be like I always think about like $1,000 example. $1,000 for a small business is not a huge sum of money. But you make $1,000 mistakes, you've got $10,000 of mistakes. Now you've got a big sum of money on your hands that you've made a mistake on. And so like if you are able to make the right decision $1,000 at a time, those add up to larger and larger decisions. And when you take on the mindset that like this could fail, this might be a dumb decision. What would we do if we were going through an extended period of failure? How would we look at this decision? That has become such a great tool for us as we've gone through like full recovery and we have an abundant business again, to remember what the bad times were so that we don't make 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 $1,000 mistakes that ultimately add up to like, uh-oh, we really fumbled the bag hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'll say, yeah, we definitely learn a lot more from our failures than we do our successes. We've taken a lot of calculated risks and we will always continue to do that. But, the first thing we're always thinking about is number one is our people. Like, me and Keith are willing to not make money, to do what we need to do the right thing by our people, by our clients, to grow the brand into what we want it to be. But that's our choice. Our people come first. So we're going to always take calculated risks, but we will be very careful, and we work with great people who help us to make sure that any risk we take is something that is not going to like kill the company. It's not going to lead to us like impacting the lives of our people. But I will tell you, like when you fail, I think what happens lots of times, and you see it, whether it's like your friends or you see it with business owners, be like, why does he keep doing that? Right? Like you keep doing the same thing and you keep having the same result. And it's not a good result. Part of it, I think, and obviously I am not talking about substance use disorders or anything like that. I'm talking about like business decisions or just poor decisions outside of that realm.
Life decisions, yeah.
Yeah, I think people forget they forget to associate and to bottle up and really remember that feeling. Like if you're going through financial distress because of a bad decision, or if you're stressed out because you did something shitty, to somebody that you shouldn't have, whatever it is. I mean, everyone makes mistakes, but you need to do not forget the feeling that you felt when you made that mistake or when you had that failure. You need to carry that with you, because I think that really, even more so than data and numbers, can prevent you from making a similar decision leading to a similar fate again. And I always tell people, when we go through something hard, we talk through it together. We can all learn from our mistakes. We're open and honest about them. That's how we learn from them. But I always tell them, like, and as much as this sucks, don't forget this feeling, because it's really going to help ensure that you don't end up in this spot again.
I think about a lot. And I know you'll appreciate this, because I think you and I met like exercising. Like the very first time we met, we were both
Yeah.
together. And like one of the things that I think about a lot is that, like, this is heady, but like the universe wants chaos. Like the laws of the universe are like, the universe wants nothingness. Like it's like jungle, like the strongest survive. And we as humans have so much agency over like creating order out of disorder, right? Obviously it's a political thing too, but even for ourselves. And so like like falling in love, creating prosperity, having friends, being a member of a community, these are rewards that you get when you contribute and you actively, like, you drag your ass out of your house every day and you try to do it, right? And like it's the fruits of something that is unnatural. Like the most natural thing to do, it would be like just to sit in your house all day and order food, gets delivered to you, and play your video games. And like it's like you have like you contribute nothing, you extract nothing, it's all brought to you and whatever. But the rewards that you get for trying things are so myriad that, like, the upside of going out and like making small talk with the cashier at Wegmans, the upside of that is like it could brighten your day for a half hour.
Yeah.
It's not natural. It might not be what you want to do, like innately. But when you are somebody who is automatically like, let's see what's behind that door. Let me talk to that girl, right? Let's see what that feels like. Let me try this in my business. When you create a culture of that within yourself, it is a way to drag yourself out of failure. And you have to act. I've learned that the hard way, right? Because if you just sit there and wait, things just happen to your business aren't good. You're like, why does all this stuff keep happening to me? But like you have got to punch back. And as I think as a human being, you got to punch back every day.
Yep, for sure. So what's something like maybe you're most excited about for the future of Oxford Pennant right now?
What am I most excited about? Good question. You know why I don't have a good answer to this? Because I am. If you would ask me this on your podcast 4 years ago, I know you didn't have a podcast then, I would have been like, oh, big collaboration and this and that. And like part of like this like wisdom that I now have as a business owner is like, I'm not gonna mess with the magic. Like namaste. Like I'm just gonna like let it go and like enjoy the business and protect it. And so I just don't want to mess with the magic. And right now things are going really, really, really well. Like we really feel like we understand our product. We feel like we've got a great customer base that trusts us. We've got a couple of like really big collaborations that we're excited about, which I can't really even tease on this podcast, I'm afraid.
That's fine.
But like, what am I excited about? Like, I am excited about just enjoying the day-to-day of like the full summer in Buffalo with this company that I love and this team that I enjoy being with. And just, just the nice weather and the city and being a small business owner in a town, seeing my neighbors and being like, what's up? I don't know that's a great answer, but like, I'm just excited to
No.
be alive and have my business and enjoy my city that I love.
No, it's a great answer. I mean, it shows obviously your maturity as a business owner. I mean, and it's great perspective. I think everyone should share in that. It's like sometimes we get so caught up in, oh man, we got to fix this. We got to grow the business. We got to do this better, that we forget to like, enjoy what we're building, enjoy the people we're building with, both at work and with our families who we can't do this without. And yeah, it's like, especially in Buffalo, right? Where especially, this winter was brutal, but now it's like opening up. It's such a great time. Everyone's so happy, like get out there, enjoy life. And I like that. It's like not looking too far ahead. I mean, obviously you got to plan and kind of have a roadmap, but it's important to enjoy the journey along the way. And that's something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of forget.
Well, it's one of the things that I love. Like I last night was the first night at the Bidwell concert series in the Elmwood Village in Buffalo, and I went out with took my kids in the wagon. Like we went out there, didn't listen to the music, and you're seeing people that like you haven't seen all winter long. And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how are you, Nick?
Yeah.
And just being able to be outside and like run into people, catch them up on your life, buy them a beer, like I think that's one of the benefits of being a small business owner in a town like Buffalo. You really feel like people are rooting for you because they like you represent Buffalo as you go out into the world and do these amazing things. And you can bring it on home and you run into your friends. They're like, I saw this thing you did that was great. And you're like, oh, I got to tell you this crazy story. And it's life, it's awesome.
Yep. All right. So I have kind of one final question for you. So I want you to pretend that Oxford Pennant is essentially a time capsule. Like somebody can take the whole company, the brand, you and Brett, put it in a time capsule, bury it in the ground, and someone's going to dig it up 200 years from now. When they open that up, what would you hope that essentially that time capsule communicates about you, the company, and the brand that you've built here in Buffalo?
That we had a ton of fucking fun. Period.
Love it. Dude, you're the best. I really appreciate you, being here with me and being so vulnerable and open about sharing your stories. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Dave.
Let's have beers. Let's get together this summer.
100%. We're doing it.
Okay,
all right, man.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Bye, John.
Thanks for listening to Angles. If this episode made you think, smile, or see something in a new way, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review and share it with friends. You can also follow us on social media. Angles is produced by Brett Tuttle. I'm John Richmond. See you next time.